Then I call to order this regular meeting of the Verona Town Council for Monday, the 20th of January, 2025. Madam Clerk, would you please read the Open Public Meetings Act compliance statements?
The notice requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act have been satisfied with respect to this meeting of the Township Council. The meeting time and date were included in the public meeting notice along with the public internet link and telephone call-in information. Said notice and meeting agenda was posted in the municipal buildings and sent to the official newspapers of the Township, the Verona City Road Times, and the Star Ledger, at least 48 hours preceding the start time of this meeting. The agenda and public handouts can be viewed online at veronamj.org/council meetings. Public comment period will be held, and the words listed on the meeting agenda and instructions on how to comment will be provided at the appropriate time.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Would you please call the roll?
Councilwoman Holland? Here. Councilman Roman?
Here.
Deputy Mayor McAvoy?
Present.
Mayor Tamboro?
Here.
Mayor also present tonight is Township Attorney Brian Loya, Township Manager Joseph Diarco, Deputy Township Manager Kevin O'Sullivan, myself, Municipal Clerk Jennifer Kearney.
Thank you. Please stand. Pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. We'll start with the mayor's report tonight. I just have a few quick items. It was my honor and pleasure to swear in our re-elected members of the Board of Education, Pam Prisco and Chris Waka. And congratulations to Denise Brazella for being chosen to be the president of the Board of Education, and Mrs. Prisco for being chosen to be the vice president. That was a wonderful night. They're two very committed elected officials. Happy Martin Luther King Day to everybody. I hope that everybody took a moment to reflect today on the legacy of Dr. King and how we can use that legacy moving forward. This Saturday is the Junior Women's Club Spelling Bee. It is my pleasure again to serve as a judge, which is probably the most difficult thing that I have to do as mayor. It's tough. I give those kids a lot of credit. So if anybody's around on Saturday, please stop in and come to the spelling bee and Brown. I'd like to thank the Department of Public Works for their excellent work in getting the snow cleared from the storm. You can really tell driving in Essex County when you enter and leave Verona because our roads are just that much better. And finally, I just wanted to thank all of the public for the tremendous outpouring of support shown to one of our township staff members going through a very difficult time. There has been just immense public response. And I was telling one of my family members this weekend that only Verona could that response happen so quickly, so generously. And that's just another reason I love living in this town. That's my report. Mr. Diarco.
On the agenda, there's some appointments as I transition out. The first appointment is the Class 2 member of the Planning Board, Kevin O'Sullivan, and the appointment to the New Jersey Intergovernmental Insurance Fund. Kevin will be signed there, and the Bergen County Municipal Employees Benefit Fund, Kevin and Jennifer Miscala. I apologize for the voice. And then the deputy manager's report.
That's all.
I think to start my report with the presentation from UMR.
Or make sure the mic's not.
Thank you very much. So Dan Haubin, the affordable housing planner for the township from DMR Architects. Tonight, we're talking about the resolution to declare the township's fourth round affordable housing obligation, which it is required to do by state law in order to protect itself from exclusionary zoning lawsuits, also known as builder's remedy lawsuits, over the next 10 years. That didn't do anything. Here we go. All right, so I hope that there's folks out there on Zoom who are this is specifically targeted to. So just so because the council has heard me talk about this about 7,000 times already. So the reason we're having this conversation tonight is that the governor and the state legislature passed a bill in March of 2024, which established the rules for municipalities to estimate and meet their affordable housing obligations for the next 10 years and beyond. Specifically, the reason we're talking tonight is because that bill requires municipalities to declare what their affordable housing needs are prior to January 31st, which is in 11 days. The numbers declared in this meeting will be the basis of an affordable housing plan that has to be adopted by June 30th of this year, and the basis of ordinances intended to implement that plan to be adopted by March 15th of 2026. The context in which we're having this discussion is affordable housing obligation calculations published by the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs on October 18th, 2024. The DCA, as it's called, prescribed a methodology to use for the purpose of these calculations by that law adopted earlier last year. And it's determined that the township has a prospective need of 173 units, which means that it has to zone for or allow for the creation of 173 affordable housing units by 2035. It has a 0 unit present need, which is the term for the need that a municipality would have to participate in or fund a program to rehabilitate existing deteriorated homes in their locality. The township is required to accept or declare their affordable housing numbers by binding resolution. They can either accept the DCA's calculations or propose an alternative number based upon the methodology endorsed and prescribed by the law, usually by identifying flaws in the data that was used by the DCA. If they were to deviate from the methodology, the township and other municipalities would face risk of legal challenges, which could risk their immunity from the exclusionary zoning litigation, which is why we are advising to propose alternative numbers that are consistent with the methodology based on flaws in the data used by DCA. Just for some history, for those who haven't heard it from me before, affordable housing has been the state law since 1975, when the Supreme Court, in a case commonly known as Mount Laurel 1, stated that every municipality has a constitutional obligation to create an opportunity for the creation of affordable housing, and a subsequent ruling in 1983 called Mount Laurel 2, which said that all municipalities are growing and required to accommodate the growth needed to create affordable housing opportunities. The Fair Housing Act of New Jersey, adopted in 1985, codified those Supreme Court rulings and created the Council on Affordable Housing, also known as COA, which was required to estimate and create rules for local housing obligations and meeting those obligations. The Fair Housing Act created something called the exclusionary zoning or builder's remedy lawsuit route, wherein a municipality that did not comply with the Fair Housing Act or with COA's rules could be subject to a lawsuit from a developer, which would remove the municipality's zoning powers in an event where a developer would promise to create affordable housing. COA had effectively made and enforced affordable housing rules from 1987 to 1999. You might hear the term prior rounds or first and second affordable housing rounds of rules and enforcement. It failed to effectively adopt and enforce rules from 2000 to 2014 when it 3 times attempted to adopt rules and faced obstacles in each instance in maintaining those rules in place. In 2015, Mount Laurel 4 New Jersey Supreme Court case determined that COA was defunct, and it determined that every municipality must go through the court process in order to estimate and meet their affordable housing obligations. Verona Township settled with Fair Share Housing Center, which was the main litigant bringing the state to the Mount Laurel 4, to the Supreme Court in Mount Laurel 4. Settling with Fair Share Housing Center, determine each municipality's affordable housing obligations and the project to meet those obligations. The township adopted a plan in 2023 that was consistent with and implemented the settlement and also adopted ordinances consistent with that plan. The prospective need, as stated before, is the obligation that the municipality is required to meet through zoning or through construction or approval of projects by 2035, in order to create affordable housing units. The prospective need is calculated at the regional level as determined by the state, which consists of 4 counties: Union, Essex, Morris, and Warren counties. The need is calculated at the regional level and then allocated to each town based on 3 factors: the non-residential property value factor, the household income factor, and the available land factor. And each of these determine how those land values, income, or available land acreage in each municipality compared to the rest of the region. Based on those factors, the DCA has estimated that the township's prospective need obligation is 173 units. The township is still required to approve and maintain the projects outlined in its 3rd round plan and any plans that adopted prior to the 3rd round. It also should be noted that the prospective need accumulates over time. So just because one round ends doesn't mean that the need from that round is expired. A town like Verona that is largely built out is eligible to seek a vacant land adjustment. And what that does, it allows the municipality to adjust its prospective need to reflect constraints on its available land. It's required to determine how much land how much affordable housing a vacant parcel or farmland in town could accommodate based on some factors outlined by the state. Those lands cannot be legally or environmentally constrained. And the resulting number of units from an analysis of the vacant land capacity is typically called the RDP, or realistic development potential. In the 4th round, the state law says that a municipality has to plan for a minimum of 25% of its prospective need. So if the RDP is less than 25% of the prospective need, which for 173 units would be 44 units, you are supposed to round up. And if your RDP is higher than the 25% prospective, then you would use the RDP. So how do you create affordable housing? Typically, it's done through inclusionary development and zoning for redevelopment plans, in which a generally market rate development consists of 15 to 20% affordable units. So roughly 1 out of 5 housing units in a new housing project would be available to low and moderate income households. Some portion of the need can also be met through group homes and supportive housing, or the township can use development fees or other funds to create housing or incentivize higher set-asides in these inclusionary projects. Up to 25% of the prospective need, or the RDP, can be met through what's called bonus credits. Essentially, a certain number of affordable housing units can be counted as more than one affordable housing unit. In the 4th round, we're looking at 1.5 to 2 units for each 1 unit, depending on the character of that unit and some of the other criteria outlined in the law. You can only get bonus credits for actual projects, not just for units that are potential from zones or redevelopment plans. So bring us back to the next steps, which is tonight our step is to adopt a resolution declaring our housing obligation. We can either accept the DCA's 173 units, or we can offer an alternative. I spoke with the council and indicated that it is our belief that the DCA had counted in the vacant land factor contributing to the determination of the township having to create 173 units. It had accounted for 18 and a half units that are actually 18 and a half acres of public parkland that is actually deed restricted and should have been included in the state level data that the DCA had considered in its analysis. But since that data was not up to date, the DCA overestimated how much available land is available in the township. And after removing that excess deed restricted land, the township's obligation would be reduced from 173 units to 149 units. The resolution may also acknowledge the vacant land adjustment opportunity and other adjustments that may be available. After adopting this resolution, essentially from February through May, the township will be engaged in preparing its plan, determining what projects and zones it will use to meet that plan, and refining its vacant land adjustment. It will be required to adopt its plan by fourth round plan by June 30th, which will state what its obligation is, what its adjustment is based on the vacant land analysis, and how it will meet those obligations. The plan must include a spending plan, which states how much revenue the township expects to take into its affordable housing trust fund over the next 10 years and how that money will be used, as well as drafts of any ordinances needed to implement the plan, and some resolutions that are just administrative for effectuating the plan. Any developer or interested affordable housing advocacy group will have until August 31st to challenge that plan. And if the affordable housing dispute resolution program that created by the state determines that a change is needed to the plan, the township will have until December 31st to make those changes. Of course, that's way far ahead in the future, so not our focus tonight. I know I just threw a lot at everybody in the public. If anybody was listening, I'm sorry. But I will now open this up to questions, comments, and discussion.
Questions from the council? I know we're going to be passing a resolution shortly. Do you want to give a brief summary of what's in that resolution, because the public has not?
Yeah, sure. So the resolution is that we've discussed is going to state that the township the township planner, us DMR architects, myself, did an analysis of the DCA's methodology for calculating the township's fourth round expected need of 173 units, and we determined that the DCA had used state level data that considered or caused the DCA to consider 18 and a half acres in 3 parks that were recently deed restricted. They considered that to be developable land, whereas we know that that land is deed restricted and should have been included in the state data at this stage, but for various reasons may not have been. So the resolution is going to state that that specific issue, state that the township is proposing that its obligation is 149 units rather than the 173 units. That where the township is accepting the 0 unit present need obligation. There's no reason based on any data that I've seen to challenge that as well. Obviously, it's the lowest it could possibly go. I believe that the resolution is going to state that DMR has conducted a vacant land analysis or an analysis of the land in town that has a realistic development potential to create affordable housing units. And as of the most recent iteration of that analysis, we believe that the realistic development potential is going to be 66 units. which is greater than 25% of 149, which would have been 38. So the township would be required in its plan, should the 66 units stick over the next 3 months while we continue to revisit and refine that analysis. The township's plan will be planning for 66 rather than 173 affordable housing units for the next 10 years.
And that number could potentially be a little lower.
It could potentially be a little lower. It could be definitely.
Any other questions, comments, Mr. Alvin? Okay, hearing none. Thank you, Mr. Alvin.
Thank you.
So yeah, you're.
I didn't know if they were going to go into the public. There we go.
Mr. Plastick, do you have anything to add? Thank you. Okay. We appreciate your presentation and at this point I will call the motion on resolution that is labeled in the council packet as E2B V2.
I'll make that resolution, or that motion.
The motion is made by Councilman Roman. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any discussion on the resolution? This time I'll open for public comment on the resolution. Madam Clerk, would you please read the citizen statement?
Anyone from the public wishing to speak on this matter, please raise your hand by pressing the raise hand button on your monitor. Dialing in by phone, press *9. Once recognized, clearly state only your name and township of residence for the record. Provide your street address. However, if you do, please note these meetings will be posted on the township's YouTube channel, and addresses will not be redacted for any purpose. You'll have 4 minutes to address the council, and after everyone wishing to speak has been heard, the council may address your questions and your comments.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Okay, seeing no members of the public wishing to be heard. Oh, we have one. Mr. Ryan. Go ahead, Kevin.
It's getting it.
You're muted, Kevin.
I'm asking,
Mr. Ryan, you're muted. You're permitted to talk. You need to unmute.
Can you hear me now?
There you go. We can.
Yeah, hi, Kevin Ryan, Verona, New Jersey. According to recent news articles, a number of towns have banded together to challenge the overall methodology as to how these numbers were derived. I just was curious if the council ever considered the possibility of joining the lawsuit. Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan. Any other comments? Okay, hearing none, I will close public comments. Sorry, mic is still active. Okay. To answer Mr. Ryan, your question on that, we are aware of what some other towns are doing. There's a buy-in to that as well, and the council has not made any action to participate in that lawsuit. Right. Madam Clerk, would you call roll?
Councilwoman Howard,
Yes.
Councilwoman DeGraff,
Yes.
Councilman Roman,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McAvoy,
Yes.
Mayor Tamboro.
Yes.
Mayor, resolution E2B will be number 2025-26, passes 5-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Back to you, Mr. O'Sullivan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Mayor. The first item on my report is actually regarding the pool utility. I know it also comes up in new business. I was hoping we can entertain that discussion at this point, that now that we have our Director of Community Services also in attendance at the meeting to help provide additional context to some of the materials that were distributed to the council and answer questions. The prior recommendation discussion centered on a recommendation from our consultant who did a rate study on the pool utility. The recommendation was for 15% rate increases across all membership types. That was a recommendation that was rooted in the fact that there were a number of other smaller considerations to work through, efficiencies at the pool to be explored, some additional potential revenues, or the attempts to grow membership bases. Ultimately, New Gen, when they studied the rates of the pool, they did feel that those, while they were worthwhile endeavors, they also did acknowledge that those were not the ultimate and final solution for making the pool financially whole in the coming season. However, the administration and community services department also did continue to explore a number of those comments and a lot of the questions that came up over the past several meetings. We've explored a lot of those recommendations and discussions with the Recreation Advisory Committee's pool subcommittee. There was some communication back and forth with the pool subcommittee over the past week and a half to 2 weeks. The Recreation Advisory Committee is meeting again tomorrow night. However, the pool subcommittee did band together pretty quickly to provide some quick feedback on the other open items that were discussed. There was some review and recommendations associated with the staffing. I'll go through a number of the recommendations that Mr. Robotham had prepared. He is here to provide some additional context on that and to answer any specific questions at the end. But there was a full analysis on the lifeguarding rotation, the front desk staffing, the rec tent staffing, and there was a potential savings of approximately $2,800 based upon some minor modifications. Again, that was not necessarily recommended. There were some concerns from the pool recreation subcommittee about the potential impacts to service, the potential opportunity for some of the staffing that would be losing. It may prohibit us from pursuing some of those additional revenue streams in the 2025 pool year. They felt that the pursuit of those additional revenue streams was more valuable than the savings could offer. Again, these are some of the interactions between the administration and the pool subcommittee, again, to be formalized a little bit more in detail with the entirety of the Recreation Advisory Committee tomorrow night. There was a consideration of the management staffing. I think there was an ability to offer some of the high performing managers and to review the manager levels from 2024 to 2025 and potentially provide some efficiencies and savings there. There is a potential $6,800 in savings at the management level. There's also some discussions regarding the potential for being a little bit more quick in responding to poor weather days in which there are little to no attendance at the pool. Typically, the pool is closed based upon lightning only. There have been several instances in prior seasons in which the weather and the temperature yielded very, very low turnout at the pool. So there's pending storms which are coming later on in the afternoon, and it usually chases patrons out from the pool. So there's some savings to be had at the pool utility if we were a little bit more reactive in those types of situations. There's a few additional considerations that were discussed previously, which are no longer being recommended. That was primarily surrounding the reduction of hours at the splash pad. That is not recommended at this time. There was also a review of a few of the programs at the pool, which were not bringing in the revenue to support the cost of those programs. So there's a recommendation that was provided to slowly increase those rates over the next several years to bring them to where those programs are supporting themselves. Additionally, there is a fee being recommended for the attendance at a few other additional events, whether it's from playground trips to family night and the preseason concert that's been discussed. There are some additional fees that are recommended to, again, provide the revenue to the pool that those particular events or programs would actually cost the pool. There is also a plan in place for how to manage and support requests for memberships from low-income families throughout the township. That was circulated throughout the to the council, and that was a recommendation which was worked on with administration and community services. Again, that is reliant upon some partial offsets, which again, it would not result in a loss of revenue to the pool, but it would be some offsets which would be provided to the pool through the children's fund. And again, the last consideration was also the idea of increasing membership base and membership revenues. There was a consideration and a recommendation to open up pool membership to all full-time Township of Verona employees to purchase membership at the same price as Verona residents. And there was also a consideration discussion amongst the firefighters and rescue squad, whereby those members of those departments currently receive memberships. They currently receive courtesy memberships. The discussion that was had on that element surrounded additional services, training, and equipment that would be provided by each of those departments to the pool. In exchange, it would need to be completed through a shared service arrangement in which it would ultimately become a four-party agreement between the township, the pool utility, and the fire department and the rescue squad, in which the township would offset a portion of the memberships and over that would be the subsidy to the pool in exchange for the free memberships being provided to those departments and the services and the goods being offered to the pool in exchange for that consideration. There was also circulated a final summary of the rules and regulations for the 2025 pool season, and then there was a final summary sheet with the pool fee recommendations for 2025. Again, the majority of the pool solvency is based upon the proposed membership rates. A number of the other fees that are proposed in here are efficiencies that can be had at the pool. There are some additional revenue streams, but the solution for correcting the revenue requirements at the pool this year are largely backed upon the memberships at this time. There's also a salary or recommendation for all the staff at the pool, which was circulated. That's the very, very quick, brief summary of everything that's been circulated to the council at this point. If there's any questions on that, I'd be happy to have Dave step up and answer as well.
Councilman McGrath.
I don't have a question, just an observation that, part of this is the cost that we charge to Verona nonprofits who use the pool for pool parties or special events, most of them pre-season, but not all. And I just want to point out, so if I'm reading this correctly with your new proposed cost going forward, the average pool party still costs $3,200. The fee we're proposing would be $2,100. This is in the sample that you provided us. So we're still losing money, but it gets it close. This is a substantial increase to those nonprofits, but we're still losing a lot of money on those pool parties, so.
Right, there was a discussion that the cost of a lot of the programs that are run at the pool and a lot of the offerings at the pool are running at a loss to try to correct a year. Becomes a little bit difficult to try to do that in just 1 year, so the intention would be to slowly build those up to where they
Yeah.
are running at break-even cost.
Yeah, so we build up a little bit of revenue from all these other little pockets. And then that, hopefully with the increases in the membership, which is the majority of the revenue that comes in, that kind of comes together to create a stronger financial picture.
Correct, so we're not as reliant upon the revenue through the memberships, and we're slowly building a little bit more reliance on those other revenue streams.
Okay, that's the plus. Okay, I just wanted to highlight that one. Thank you.
Questions? Deputy Mayor?
Comments, I do, going through here, I do agree with a lot of what was proposed. I want to point out the potential savings on page 3 for the maintenance worker. I do disagree. I agree with your not recommending that, because obviously we all know a lot of the complaints that we got up there with the cleanliness of bathrooms and all. I think that should stay. And for that amount of money, I think it's well worth keeping staff on to do it. I noticed on the first page, impact on the patron. Number 4, independent pool entrance begins at 14 years old, not 12 years old. Is there a way we can put like a little highlight there that 14 or freshmen entering high school? So I know there's some 13-year-olds, and I know someone going into high school is a big year. They want to be able to go to a pool by themselves rather than have their parents bring them along.
Yeah.
The little kind of asterisk there.
Absolutely. That wasn't. That was not
Way
changed.
back when.
That I. Condition.
Gotcha. Okay.
As a September birthday, I'm appreciative for that.
Yeah.
Other comments?
That was it for me for now.
I have a couple comments on the office staffing. I brought up previously that this is an area I thought that it's a reduction, and I was surprised that there was not a more there to maybe rethink how we deploy those staff. In most of the times I've been at the pool for both to check in, there has been abundance of staff in those areas. And I'm wondering if that is another area potentially that we could look at and try this year to reduce. I mean, having one person for sports equipment, life jacket, and deal tray collection seems to be there are significant downtimes. There are times when people generally enter the pool that we could deploy more office staff. You know, I think we need to look at dynamically scheduling office staff. So maybe at some times, like having 5 staff members is valuable, but other times maybe it's not as valuable. And you know, the deal tray collection, that could be something potentially that we put in our contract with our stack bar vendor, that they have to collect their own trays and things like that because they deliver them. They can pick them up when they're delivering other ones. But it seems like having 5 staff members all the time, and even when we look at on the page about the splash pad, when you're talking about the cost of the hour on Saturday and Sunday, the extended hour for the splash pad, that the office staff cost is $5,655 for those 2 hours, while the lifeguard cost is $32.76. And we don't seem to have many people that actually use that extra hour on the splash pad. So I was actually surprised to see it in the recommendation. But same point, it seems like having $5,600 worth of office staff when we have very few people that actually use that hour doesn't seem to make much sense. So I see that it's my opinion that, yeah, maybe we can't, you know, dramatically reduce the staff, but at the same point, I think we need to try with some scheduling this year to more dynamically schedule and maybe have 5 staff on at peak times and 4 or 3 staff on at other times, and start looking at when people are checking in and like, if we don't have a lot of people checking in after 6 o'clock in the evening, we start reducing staff because we don't need as many office staff nobody checks out, right? So we need to start looking at those things and really measuring that, because it is expense that is not, directly related to lifeguarding and those things we can't really change. And I would even be more inclined to reallocate some of that office staff to have more maintenance staff, because that seems to be one of the bigger concerns from the pool members was the condition of the facility. So at peak times, maybe we could have more maintenance staff at peak times and then redeploy for taking some hours away from the office here. It could still potentially be a cost savings depending on how many hours we redeploy, but start looking at that as a way of even increasing, because if we're charging people now more for the same service that they've been getting, actually potentially a little less with some of the hours being cut, we really need to make sure that the quality of the service that is being provided is good. And one of those things is the upkeep. And we did, hear from a couple of residents that reached out to the council that were like, that brought up the office staff as like, maybe this isn't a thing. And I want as many of our teenagers to have jobs as possible, right, in the summer. But at the same point, we're also expecting people to pay for that. So that's one of those things that I think we need to start, or maybe have some hybrid maintenance office people that can do both of those jobs, and start to just use them as we need them. And that way, there isn't necessarily there's not a huge skill set training piece that's required, right, for these positions. So there's no certification that's necessary. There are few barriers for those positions, and potentially, instead of separating those positions, have some crossover people that do both of those jobs. And I think you could use your staff better that way. But I'd like to see at the end of the summer evidence that there was some thoughtful creation into what I just brought up. And the reason being is we're going to have this conversation the next year. And if doing this stops us from having to raise our rates as much, we still have 3 more years where we're looking at considerable rate increases. We need to do everything we can to see what savings we can have for the next year. And I can tell you that I'm visiting the pool quite a bit more this year, to check in and see how things are going, and ask about these things. I'll be asking you to come with me, Mr. Robotham, and start looking at these items, because I think we have to look out for our ratepayers. As I said previously, I am worried that raising rates may potentially lower membership, and some of the assumptions that we operated on may or may not be true. But this is year 1. So people might stick around in year 1 when we're talking about years 2 and 3 of potential rate increases based on the new gen study. That could be an issue as well. So we need to be very thoughtful in that. And I'm also, I think I'm going to want a lot of data now that we've had some thoughtful deliberation into like the rec tent. I want to see what tournaments are being run. I want all of this, and how much we're using this, because I looked at the rate increases, and we're putting the same percentage rate increase for a lot of different membership levels, and some of them would never use the rec tent, right? Senior citizens don't, play in basketball tournaments. So I think we need to start thinking about that, and then potentially have that be one of those items in the future that we keep everybody's rates lower, and we start looking at some pay for additional benefit type things, like try to keep the family rate lower, but if you want access to the splash pad, pay a little bit more for it, right? If you want access to the rec tent, because I know a lot of pool users do not use the rec tent. like they're there to swim. If the kids want to do rec programs, they go to the ones that we offer down, or they play with their friends on, in their backyards or whatever. But there are some opportunities to maybe not have every ratepayer paying for the same service. And I think we're getting a little too late to do that now, but as we move forward and we look at those numbers, I think that'll give us some good data, and I'd like to have this discussion in September, right? And start looking at how that's gonna work. That's something, Councilman Collins.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank you both for going through this process. I know it's been a lot and it's definitely been an iterative process. I will say over the course of this engagement, I do appreciate the effort that's been put into both being responsive to council members, but also to the rec committee and the subcommittee. I know it's been a lot. And I can see from your latest documents, like an effort was made to accommodate the different feedback that you've received, both from the community, from this council, and from the rec committee. So I do appreciate that. And again, I know it's been just kind of this chipping process, but and that was challenging. But I think, we are making progress and moving in the right direction. And I just wanted to acknowledge that at the top of my remarks. With that in mind, I did want to say that, in your solutions summary document, I, for one, did appreciate the change of course on the rec tent. I will offer a counterpoint that I do think that the rec tent offers a lot of inclusive activities for, in particular, families, where you may have members of the family that are very interested in being there for the swimming aspect, but you may have children with special needs or other reasons why, for example, having that rec programming is very important. So it makes it a very inclusive space. If you are going to be using that staffing for tournaments, which was a recommendation from the rec committee as a marketing endeavor as well, I would just ask that you make sure that when people are signing up, they know that they have the availability as members of the pool to be engaged in beach volleyball tournaments. And, if they have teenagers or something like that, that might encourage them more toward the family memberships, the basketball tournaments. And hearing the mayor's remarks, I challenge the rec department to really consider inclusive tournaments that could involve seniors. You do have the aqua aerobics, are there any things that may be appealing to the senior community or to the very younger communities, or something that can incorporate the splash pad to actually encourage people to use the early time and really make them aware of that early time as a benefit to them as pool members? I think there may not have been a robust awareness that we were allowing that early opening for younger families. So I do think a lot of this is going to be driven by communication. And, to my earlier point on the communications plan that we saw or at our last meeting, I was going to say last week, 2 weeks ago, I do think it may need to be more than just social media campaigns. It may need to be multiple channels of communication to make sure that you're hitting as many people as possible, because you really want to drive that membership. So thank you for reconsidering the rec tent and considering, some of the recommendations that were received from the Recreation Advisory Committee, splash pad changes. With regard to family night, I just wanted to clarify my understanding. It's not clear to me. Are you proposing family nights to return to the every Tuesday night model? Because last year, I believe there were only 4 family nights. It's not clear because Rule 45 says family nights are on Tuesdays from 4 to 8 between Memorial Day and Labor Day. It includes the $10 per person that's now been introduced. So for my family of 4, it would be $40. It's just I'm just not clear. Is it going to be every Tuesday night, or is it going to be select Tuesday nights?
Wired to get.
So
having that. Could we? And that will definitely be. There's some reason why office staff. Requires one or excuse me.
Okay, so to answer my question on the family night, you are proposing every Tuesday night for the fee, and your basis for that is because without the fee, when you did it on the select nights, the amount of attendance exceeded your expectations, and therefore you needed additional staff, and it actually ends up still costing you more. All right, I mean, it'll be interesting to get the metrics to see if it becomes more balanced by doing it on the Tuesday nights, but my understanding also was that there were residents that would come every Tuesday night anyway, expecting there to be family night when we did the select dates. So I think the residents will appreciate the return to that family night. But again, it comes down to communication because people are going to expect it to be free. And you're going to need to educate them on the fact that it now is not free. It is a nominal fee, but it is still a fee. So that comes down to communication, and not everybody looks at social media. So we do need to make that really clear. I saw the increases in the aerobics. There was question from the rec subcommittee about that consistency with the price of recreation department fees, but my understanding, separate from the pool, is that recreation is gonna kind of do an entire fee analysis to start right sizing some of your fees. Is that accurate?
We're in the process of that. Water road. I think we need.
Right. Okay. But again, I think so my concern there is that you haven't had, at least to my knowledge, like a whole lot of utilization of those programs. Are they oversubscribed, or are they
For which,
for like the water aerobics or the twilight aerobics? Like, are they filled to capacity, or are they kind of lighter on?
they're the. Water aerobic. What we should.
Yeah, I would just want to make sure that you're not going to price people out of that program, but at the same time, if we're not even making, the cost of running the program, like if we're running at such a significant deficit, then there needs to be a balancing, and perhaps again, some of these programs need to be more effectively communicated so that more people can enroll in them if they want to. But then I guess we'll have to make a decision if you don't have the enrollment as to whether or not to continue to provide the programs. So I had two more topics that I just wanted to quickly address. Similar to my question about family night, I just wanted to clarify. So the recommendation, as Mr. O'Sullivan identified, was that for fire and rescue, there would be a shared services agreement where by the township would cover the cost of the memberships, but I saw on the fee schedule, there's a $50 with 2 asterisks next to it. Is that like, the
It's just-
request would be that they would pay the $50 and then the remainder would be covered by the township pursuant to the shared service, or is that no longer applicable?
No, that was just because it had an explanation at the bottom of the page 7. The double asterisk. If that
Okay.
was not correctly
I don't know if you.
addressed, then I
Page.
apologize.
We don't have page numbers.
The intention on that is to quantify the training and the goods that would be provided by recreation, provided to the pool by the fire and rescue squad. And have there be some balancing where there is a fee where the township covers that fee and pays that to the pool in exchange for those services. It will not be a full coverage. The current memberships will still exist. They'll be offered to those departments in exchange for those that quantified amount of goods and training that's provided by them.
Okay, I guess I'm not entirely following. So you're going to quantify the services that are being provided to
Right.
the pool. That will then offset the cost of a membership, and then the township's going to pay some smaller portion.
So
I'm just trying to understand.
training is gonna be provided by the rescue squad and the fire department.
Mhm.
For CPR training, first aid, and we're gonna look at the cost of what that training would cost with the compare what they would charge regularly, and that's going to offset the $50 fee that we want to introduce for the rescue squad firefighter membership. That would be the fee. It would still be no charge to the member.
Okay, so the township isn't covering the remainder cost of like, so for example, a family membership, the township's covering $50.
Correct.
Okay, so that is distinct from what the Recreation Advisory Committee recommended, so I do just want to make that note. But they are having their meeting tomorrow. But that was helpful clarification because that was not clear to me based on the documentation provided.
That falls into the similar category of we can correct that over time, and I think that there can be a better balancing where the township covers a greater portion of that over several years. Sure that it can be accomplished in a single year though.
Mhm. And the children's fund, the contributions there, the expectation is that the children's fund would be providing a certain number of free pool memberships. But like, is their contribution going to be the membership fee amount from the children's fund?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. That was helpful clarification. I just want to reiterate, I do have some outstanding questions, as you are aware of, so I do hope to have my email responded to. But with regard to the questions for public session tonight, I do really appreciate the effort that was put into this. Yeah, thank you.
Just for clarification for the council, this Verona Community Pool Fees Recommendation 2025, there's a backside of it that's missing. It's in the PDF that was sent today, so that 2 asterisk is it's the second page of that PDF.
So
Wow, that's
that
helpful.
points you to the executive
Yeah.
summary for page 7. I apologize.
Councilman McGrath.
I was gonna point that out too. I think these documents are really great, so if we can post them, for the public under this meeting, that would be great. Because I think that was the purpose of getting everything in one place. So that if we get to the point where we're introducing in 2 weeks of an ordinance that really is, fees and salaries, I'm assuming that's what we're gonna be, and adopting the pool rules.
Right.
That's
Correct.
normally,
Yes.
right? So, they see all the backup.
We do have a document that is for the public that we want to disperse. It's almost like a cliff notes of what was given to administration, mayor and council. But there are some things that obviously might change, so when we are in a position to stand firmly on each policy and or fee, then that will be updated and distributed.
And just for the public's edification, so my son joined the rescue squad, which is really wonderful. So I will have to recuse myself from any votes pertaining to rescue squad. So you're gonna prepare final documents
Yes,
so that that vote is separate.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
But just for clarification, as far as rescue squad and fire, you're saying that we're gonna say the town will, let's say their fee is gonna be $50. And whatever their training is, let's say it's $3,000 that you would normally pay if you brought someone up from the outside in, and they do it. So you had 92 memberships from fire and rescue. So we're talking $4,600. So whatever the training would cost is gonna be that taken away from 4,600 and the town pays to balance it out.
I think it's all baked into that general agreement in which township or the pool and the pool employees will be receiving all of that training.
Yes.
There will be no charge, but the payment will be made by the township to the pool for a value of $50 per membership without any balance.
$50 less what it would normally cost to train these lifeguards and staff.
It would be in exchange for, and the amount of employees that we have at the pool and also some of the more senior staff at the playgrounds. They currently get first aid training, CPR. Some of the staff at the pool, aside from the lifeguards, do not. Based on a couple instances last year, we think it's a good idea to have more staff trained in CPR, first aid response, and an emergency action plan. And based on some numbers that we have communicated with some members of the rescue squad and fire department, based on what trainings would cost, I think to cover the $50 per membership, I think the township, it would be, I think it would serve everyone well to enter into that agreement. I think it would be well.
Do you have a number on what we've spent in the past for outside people to come in and train, or have they done that?
We had a manager last year who did it, and then in years past, we had the rescue squad and the fire department perform various trainings prior to 2024. I don't believe there was a charge for that, and there was not a charge last year because he was a manager. He was certified in WSI, first aid, CPR, so he did all of those trainings. That's one of the managers we are most likely going to lose this summer.
So my point is, the maximum amount that it's gonna cost all the residents of Verona is $4,600, if we're going on the 92 memberships.
Correct.
Correct. Okay. And then we're gonna take off of that what we normally would have paid for this training.
Meaning if it exceeds $4,600,
Or the way I'm interpreting is that you're saying that if you were gonna pay $3,000 to train these lifeguards and train the staff, then you're gonna deduct that from the $4,600. So then the town would pay $1,600.
We can establish the agreement in with or without the.
My point is this, if that's what we're doing, then is it even worth going through all this for $2,000?
I think
There
there
were a lot of back and forth. I'm just saying this because we've talked about this till I'm turning blue already. It's on and on and on, and I think we just beat this, and there's a certain value, as you just said, to having the entire staff, if we can, get trained. And the rescue squad and the fire department can do that and have done that in the past. Maybe not the entire staff, but I just think it's worth it. It's 92 members now. Maybe if we do this, they're going to say, you know what? Half people might say we're not going to go. And how many of those people actually go? We want those people at the pool when there's an emergency. And I know in the past that there's been emergencies and you have someone falls, hits their head. You have a trained professional there, and I know the lifeguards are trained, and as you said, a manager, but they're there, they're on it. And I think there's no number you can put on that value of having those individuals present on a regular basis. I think we all agree.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it necessarily disincentivizes rescue or fire from attending. I think this was actually in discussion with them and almost offered by them to say that they would expand their training of all the staff because they find value in that additional training.
And I think if that was just the agreement, I don't think there's a reason why we should go back. And that's gonna far exceed $4,600.
Councilman,
I think there, maybe I might be offering just some clarity here. It kind of sounds like you're basically just to establish that that we're putting on the table that there's something of value here being received by the pool operation in exchange for doing this.
That's correct.
The concept, I mean, I didn't even, this concept of deducting a dollar amount, I didn't hear any of it. It sounds like merely we're saying that the township will subsidize $50 a membership to the pool.
Correct.
To the pool, from township funds to the pool utility in exchange for fire and rescue, offering these trainings to all pool staff. Is that?
That's correct, without
a deduct of a
correct,
implied value.
yes.
So it's just basically, it's simply that we are establishing that there is a valuable trade-off here in doing this.
Yes.
Okay. That's all, that's kind of more what my understanding of this was. And then I still kind of like the idea if someone is willing to sponsor this in general, this is still something, you know, it doesn't have to happen, but it would be nice. I mean, there's plenty of vendors that we, work with that are in the fire and rescue. If there's an opportunity to sponsor this somehow, I'm certain that somebody would still like to do it, so it's not a burden on the taxpayer. I'd still like us to try and seek that.
That is something that we're looking to explore further. That was one of the recommendations from the pool subcommittee to explore the idea of sponsorships, whether it's sponsorships to offset memberships for fire and rescue, or if it is sponsorships through the children's fund.
Right.
But there are a good deal of opportunities that we need to pursue a little bit further this year.
Right. I think the opportunities we can to bring in non-ratepayer, non-taxpayer funds into the pool would be fantastic. I do want to say this, I recognize that this is an enormously complex undertaking that you're going through here, starting with all of the work with NewGen and interpreting their recommendations and trying to develop this into a fee schedule. So I just really appreciate all of the analytics that are going into this. It's a lot of work and it's very helpful. I appreciate seeing the support.
Thank you.
If I may, I did just have one last minute.
well, I give myself the floor, but I get to you when I'm done. On the rules documents, there'll need to be a couple updates, presuming that we allow the township employees to be in there. So this is referencing ordinance 2411 in number 1. We'll just need to update that. The thing with the rule document, this is a pretty extensive list of 52 rules. My suggestion is to break this down maybe in categories before it goes out to the public. And, category pool operations, membership fees, etc. So that way you can refer to more easily to a specific section. And it would be helpful, I think, just for organizational purposes. People tend to read more when they, have these things broken down. Just as a stylistic point. But it's a comprehensive list. And I appreciate your taking the time to make it and to have everybody on the same page. And I appreciate all the work that both the administration and the pool subcommittee have put into this process. And hopefully, we'll have to do a little less next year on this, but it's as always a work in progress. Councilman Holland.
Yes, on page 2 of your fees, which I didn't have in the hard copy, I do just want to note if this is going to become in part of the ordinance, that you amend pre-season pool party to just say pool party, because you do have some in-season pool parties. And we want to just make sure that all of the pool parties are being charged a similar rate. So I don't mean the gazebo rental, I mean like things like, when you have the nonprofit school organizations that have parties, whether they be pre-season or during the season.
Got it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Robotham. Mr. O'Sullivan, you still have more things to tell us, right?
I'll try to go
The
through
highlights, Mr.
the
O'Sullivan.
highlights, yes. Primary clarifier pump station, we had our pre-construction meeting. That project will be kicking off shortly. The wastewater plant disinfection microscreen project still under design. And the Derwent trunk line, the final repairs or some supplemental work that still needs to be done. The sewer line is stabilized, but we're waiting for better weather to complete those final items. Lynn Drive well, the contractor is just finishing up his integration with the existing SCADA system. That well should be online by the first week of February. Claridge Drive pump station, there were some last minute requests for clarifications from contractors. We'll be issuing a final addendum tomorrow that will require us to postpone the bid opening to the first week of February. Jumping ahead, Everett Field, we did receive 50 to 70% design drawings. We provided some high-level comments back to Neglia. They're updating plans, and we expect them back in early February. Each of the stakeholder groups was notified that they should be expecting plans for their comments in early February. Pickleball and tennis courts are currently on hold for the winter. We expect them to mobilize as soon as the weather breaks. We are gearing up to schedule our local government energy audit team to come in and provide presentation to the council on the findings of that analysis and that audit for all of our facilities. Jumping ahead, communications tower building, that work was completed. It was approved by the structural engineer. We're just finishing and scheduling and finishing the building envelope repairs. And then the town hall windows and repointing project, we had another progress meeting January 14th. The contractor is finalizing those shop drawings. They are working with the architect from when they get approved shop drawings. It is approximately 4 months to receive the windows from manufacturing and delivery. That puts us at installation of windows probably sometime in the May, June timeframe. In the interim, we do anticipate that the contractor will start with repointing the brick as soon as the weather breaks. And that concludes my report, unless there are questions from council.
Thank you. Councilman McGrath?
So on the Claridge pump situation, there were some roadblocks identified at our last meeting. Have they been resolved, or is that a conversation we need to have?
We'll be discussing these.
Oh, okay. It's fine.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Good. Councilmember reports, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to recognize Dr. Martin Luther King Day today. If there was ever an American deserving of a holiday, it is Dr. Martin Luther King. Hope everybody enjoyed the day. In the future, I hope we don't have a meeting on this holiday. We can push it off to a Tuesday. I actually did attend the swearing in of the Board of Education, the two not new members, but re-elected, Ms. Prisco and Mr. Waka. So congratulations again. And congratulations to Mrs. Verzella for being nominated as president and Ms. Prisco for vice president. We do, as a township, appreciate your commitment to the children and the rest of the Board of Education in Verona. And lastly, Public Works has been very active with water main breaks. My hat's off to them for the last week between the water main break and the snowstorm. I'm sure they're all resting tonight. Hopefully there won't be any problems. But I thank them for their work they do for Verona and how they keep us safe. As the mayor said, when you leave Verona, it's after a snowstorm. And that's all I have for this evening.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councilman Running.
I can be very brief this evening because Mayor and Deputy Mayor have touched on anything I'd want to speak about. So I will just join them in congratulating the school board members and thanking DPW for all of their recent work. And I'll waive the remainder of my report.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman McGrath.
Thank you. I had the pleasure of attending, and unfortunately it overlapped with the Board of Ed swearing in. I attended the swearing in of our new Essex County Sheriff, Amir Jones, and the Register of Deeds and Mortgages, Juan Rivera. It was a very poignant ceremony. There were some family members who are having some health issues, so it was an emotional ceremony, as one that was also historic, as Mr. Jones or Sheriff Jones is the first African American sheriff in Essex County. So it was wonderful to celebrate their swearing in. I want to thank Public Works for their hard work with the snow removal. They did obviously a fantastic job. I had 2 committee meetings in the last week. The Shade Tree Committee met, where they talked about civic center planning and plantings. And the Neighborhood Traffic and Safety Committee met, where they updated us on an Essex County initiative on safe streets, and went over problematic areas in town. Since that meeting, they had a meeting with our soon-to-be town manager, Kevin O'Sullivan, for the Complete Streets policy, which they're working toward getting a draft to the council in either this quarter or next quarter. The Multicultural Inclusion and Accessibility Advisory Committee is meeting on Wednesday on Zoom at 7 p.m. I did notice that nominations for the Women of Impact event are once again open. I was thrilled to be an honoree last year, and along with incredible women who have been honored over the last 2 years of this event. So those nominations are open. You can go to the Verona Public Library website to submit a nomination. And that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Holland.
Thank you. My remarks will be brief. I too want to thank DPW for the effort that's been put in to address water main breaks and to clear our streets during this very snowy weather and snowy and cold weather. I want to also just acknowledge that we will be having some very extreme cold weather during the coming days. And so residents should avail themselves of any information regarding warming centers, but also be aware of the winter termination program. If you are having difficulty paying your bills, PSE&G cannot turn you off during this extreme weather time. And so please make sure that you keep your heat on during this extreme cold. Thank you.
Thank you. This time I'll open for public comment on any matter the public wishes to bring to the attention of the council. Madam Clerk, we did have a couple people come in that were not on before, so please read the public participation statement again.
Anyone from the public wishing to speak on any matter, raise your hand by pressing the raise hand button on your monitor. If you're dialing in by phone, press *9. Once you're recognized, clearly state only your name and township of residence for the record. You are not required to provide your street address. However, if you do, please note that these meetings will be posted on the township's YouTube channel, and addresses will not be redacted for any purpose. You'll have 4 minutes to address the council. There will be no cross dialogue during this public portion. After everyone speak has been heard, the council may address your comments and/or questions.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Okay, seeing none. Close public comment at this time. There'll be another opportunity later. We are moving on to hearing adoption or amendment of ordinances. Madam Clerk, the next item on the agenda is ordinance number 2025-01. On second reading, with somebody, could you read the title of the ordinance, please, Madam Clerk?
Bond ordinance providing for the acquisition of 2 salt trucks with equipment in and by the Township of Verona, of Essex, New Jersey, appropriating $200,000 therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $190,000 bonds or notes of the township to finance part of the cost thereof.
Madam Clerk, would somebody move the ordinance? The motion is made by the Deputy Mayor. Is there a second?
Second.
Second is made by Councilwoman McGrath. At this point, I'll open for the public hearing on ordinance 2025-01. The same public participation statement applies, however. Members of the public may only comment on this particular proposed ordinance. Hearing none, I close public comment. Any council discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Councilwoman Holland,
Yes.
Councilwoman McGrath,
Yes,
Councilman Roman,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McAvoy.
Yes,
Mayor Tamboro.
Yes,
Mayor ordinance 2025-01 passes 5-0 and will be published according to law.
thank you, Madam Clerk. The next item on the agenda is ordinance H1 on first reading. Madam Clerk, would you please read the title of this ordinance?
In Chapter 5, Administration of Government, Article 2, Township Council, Sections 14, 16, and 22 of the Code of the Township of Verona.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Would somebody move the ordinance, please?
So moved.
Motion is made by Councilman Roman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second is made by Councilwoman Holland. Any council discussion? Councilman Roman?
Item C, where it says the date of the annual organization meeting.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, I think it's a typographical.
Thank you.
Right. Conviction. Yes. It's gonna be one big change, just that the organization will not be outside. Was there any?
I don't think so.
There, as that actually brings up an interesting question, for Mr. Voya, that item. We had spoken about the fact that, I think it was state law that said that the reorganization meeting had to be at the normal place of the meeting, so we couldn't do it at the community center. So it has to be done here. Can we write something into the ordinance that says that can be done at the community center?
I think that's done in the community center. So it's an advertising, it's a notice thing. So that's supposed to be done somewhere completely different for the public off.
So,
So I think we're fine with that.
well, can we put that into the ordinance then, that it can be done either here at the normal place or at the Verona Community Center or another appropriate location? Maybe just put those in, that way we don't have an issue. When we have to, it does get a little tight here for organizational meeting. Sure.
Consider it in and it'll be in at your next meeting. Like you're making the amendment now, assuming the council agrees that if you want to make.
Yeah, objections, yeah. And this is where we've had it before when it's rained, but we kind of weren't supposed to have it there apparently, so. All right, okay, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Holland,
Yes.
Councilwoman McGrath,
Yes,
Councilman Roman,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McAvoy. Mayor Tamboro.
Yes,
Mayor ordinance H1 will be number 2025-02. It will be published according to law and a public hearing will be held on February 3rd.
thank you. Moving on to the consent agenda, which consists of one set of minutes and 15 resolutions later in one of the consent agenda.
Mayor, may I? I'm sorry, resolution K9, I did not put in the packet. So it has not been reviewed by the council. I can put it on the next meeting.
Right, so we're down to moving J1, K1 through K8, K10 through K15. Yes,
I have a follow-up question for our municipal clerk. I think you gave us a K9, but there were two obsolete equipment
Yeah.
ordinances in the packet. The K9 that's listed on the agenda, which is the rent board attorney, was not in the packet. So there is a K9, it just the agenda title is wrong.
Sorry, I understand. There are two obsolete equipments though,
Okay,
but one is for the fire department, one is just for obsolete equipment, but I understand your point, and
Yeah.
there's no rent board attorney resolution. in the
Right.
packet.
okay. So we have 14 plus the executive session, but it's just what's listed on the agenda for rent board is not. We don't have that one.
Correct.
at this time, sorry, I need somebody to move those.
So, second.
Okay, the motion is made by the deputy mayor, the second is by the councilwoman. This time open for public comment on the consent agenda only, the same public comment statement applies, though comments are limited to items. Hearing no public comments, I will close public comment this time. Any council discussion?
Just
Councilman Roman.
clarification on the disposal of obsolete equipment to the Cedar Grove Fire Department. I didn't understand exactly it doesn't really matter in the long run, but the way this is structured, are we scrapping the equipment or are we returning it to the Cedar Grove Fire Department? Okay, all right, that's what I thought. The mechanics of the resolution, I wasn't 100% clear as to where it was going.
Any there? Right, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Councilwoman Holland,
Yes.
Councilwoman McGrath,
Yes,
Councilman Roman,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McAvoy, Mayor Tamboro.
Yes.
Mayor, resolutions will be number 2025-26 through 2025-38.
Madam Clerk. We have no addendum this
Oh.
evening.
Sorry, with the number of the resolutions, I was incorrect. 5-27 through 25-39. Forgot the first.
Okay. We have no addendum. We have completed our discussion of the full rates in the deputy mayor's report. Any other new or unfinished business? None. I would open for public comments on any item anybody wishes to address the council on. Last call for tonight. Okay. Hearing none, I close public comment. We have passed a resolution to go into executive session. Will any official action be taken?
No.
Oh, all right, everybody. We'll see you in 2 weeks.